All right, so let's try something a little different this time.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into Blue Lock, but, not just for the typical sports anime stuff.
Oh,
What we're looking at today is how this manga, with, its crazy competition and this ruthless drive to make the world's best striker, could become a breeding ground for something, well, sinister.
okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, like something truly cosmically horrific.
Now, that's an interesting take, I gotta say. What's really fascinating is that Blue Lock, already has this foundation of psychological pressure baked in, right?
Yeah.
You've got these young athletes completely isolated, pushed to their absolute limits, and they're constantly facing, the crushing weight of potential failure. That kind of environment, that isolation, that desperation, it's fertile ground for cosmic horror,
Right, right. It's like the manga is already teetering on the edge of something darker. Even from, the first volume, there are these hints, these unsettling glimpses of something just beneath the surface of the competition. Do you remember how they describe strikers?
How so?
They're not just talented athletes, they're creatures.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. That choice of words, it's definitely deliberate. It suggests that these strikers are something other, something beyond human, And that otherness, that's core to cosmic horror.
Yeah.
It's the fear of the unknown, the realization that humanity is just, a tiny, insignificant speck in this vast cosmos.
And the way the elimination system is set up, it's
Yeah.
brutal.
Okay.
It's not just losing a game. It's being deemed unworthy,
Right.
cast aside as if you never existed.
It's like being erased, totally forgotten. That constant threat, that annihilation, it creates this profound existential dread. And dread, oh, that's the lifeblood of cosmic horror.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's the creeping realization that we are nothing, that our lives are meaningless in the face of these, forces beyond our comprehension.
And the training regimen, that Blue Lock daily schedule, outlined in Volume 3, it's not just physically demanding, it's mentally crushing too. These players are pushed to their absolute breaking point, forced to confront their physical and psychological limits.
Imagine the impact of that pressure, right?
Oh, yeah.
On someone already grappling with that existential dread we were just talking about, their minds, already stretched so thin, become vulnerable, susceptible to, outside influences.
Okay, now that's where things get really creepy.
Yeah.
So are you saying that intense training and pressure could actually make the players more susceptible to, the forces of cosmic horror?
It's a chilling possibility, isn't it? I mean, think about it. These players are isolated, driven to the edge of their sanity, and constantly bombarded with the message that they are nothing unless they become the best. That kind of psychological conditioning, it creates a perfect breeding ground for something unnatural to
Right.
take hold.
All right, I've got chills already, but let's move on to something even more unsettling, Izagi's metavision. This ability lets him perceive the future of the game, see things other players can't even imagine. But what if it's not just, natural talent? What if it's something more sinister?
Ah, now we're venturing into forbidden knowledge. Classic cosmic horror trope, real.
It is.
What if Izagi's metavision is a glimpse beyond the veil of reality? A gift, but from a source that humans shouldn't tamper with. And what if that gift has a terrible, terrible price?
You're saying it's like he's been given access to something he was never meant to see.
Yeah.
And that knowledge, that glimpse into the cosmic abyss, is warping his perception of reality.
Precisely. And the imagery they use to depict metavision, it's incredibly disturbing, right? You have the giant eye in the sky, the players looking almost doll-like. It's a visual representation of Izagi's sanity fracturing, his mind struggling to comprehend these cosmic truths that are being revealed to him.
And his drive, his ambition, it's monstrous. He even says, "Maldición te mataré aunque sea lo último que haga."
Yeah.
Like he's willing to sacrifice everything, even his humanity, to achieve his goal.
That relentlessness, that single-minded pursuit of victory, it could be a symptom of the entity's influence, don't you think? What if Isagi's desire to be the best isn't even his own? What if it's a subtle manipulation by this cosmic force that granted him metavision? What if he's becoming a pawn in a game he doesn't even understand?
This is seriously creepy now. So we have these players, driven to the brink of madness, and one of them, Izagi, might be developing a connection to some kind of cosmic entity. But where does Kunigami fit into all of this? His transformation in Volume 19, the way his body contorts and changes, giving him these incredible abilities.
Yeah.
Almost Lovecraftian how grotesque it is.
Body horror, right, another classic element of cosmic horror. Kunigami's transformation, we could see it as a physical manifestation of the entity's influence, a sign that he's becoming something other.
So, if Izagi represents the mental and psychological side of cosmic horror, with his warped perception and unsettling abilities, then Kunigami represents the physical corruption, the body as a vessel for something monstrous.
Exactly. His superhuman abilities, the grotesque physical changes, it could be a sign that he's being consumed by the very forces he's trying to harness. A terrifying example of the price one pays for seeking power from sources beyond human comprehension.
This is painting a disturbing picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Ego, the mastermind behind Blue Lock. His ruthlessness, his manipulative tactics, his desire to create a monster striker. Could he be playing a bigger role in this cosmic horror narrative than we thought at first?
Ego. His ambition to control, to shape these young athletes into something extraordinary, it echoes the hubris of classic Lovecraftian figures, like Herbert West or Dr. Frankenstein. They wanted to transcend the limits of humanity, tamper with forces they didn't understand, and their arrogance, well, it led to their downfall.
So you think Ego, in his quest to create this perfect striker, might actually be unknowingly serving the interests of this cosmic entity, maybe even paving the way for its arrival into our world?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is.
What if Ego's Blue Lock program isn't just a training ground for elite athletes? What if it's a carefully constructed ritual designed to summon something, well, something unspeakable, into our reality?
Okay, I can feel the cosmic dread creeping in now. We talked about the players, their descent into madness, their connection to this cosmic entity. We talked about Kunigami's transformation, Ego's ambition, but what about the game itself? Could soccer, the sport that drives Blue Lock, be something more in this cosmic horror interpretation?
That's the question that leads to the very heart of cosmic horror, doesn't it?
It does.
What if the rules of the game, the strategies, the flow of the match, what if it's all being subtly manipulated by the entity? What if the players are just puppets dancing to a tune we can't even hear, orchestrated by forces beyond our comprehension?
That's terrifying. And it makes you wonder, if the game itself is corrupted, if the foundation of Blue Lock is built on this cosmic horror, then what hope do the players have? Can they even win? Or is victory just another illusion?
That's the insidious nature of cosmic horror. It erodes our sense of reality, our belief in free will, our faith in the fabric of the universe.
Right.
And as we go deeper into this unsettling possibility, one question looms larger than all the others. What happens when the players, or maybe even we, the audience, begin to see through the illusion?
This deep dive is taking us to some dark places, and it feels like things are about to get even darker. But before we go any further into the abyss, let's take a moment, gather our thoughts, steel ourselves for the horrors that are waiting for us in the next part of our exploration.
Indeed. What we're about to uncover is not for the faint of heart. It's a truth that could shatter your perception of reality and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Blue Lock. So we ended on a pretty chilling question, didn't we?
We did.
What happens when the illusion of Blue Lock, shatters? Let's confront that abyss, shall we?
Okay.
Last time, we said this, like, seemingly simple sports manga might already be drenched in cosmic horror. Now we gotta ask, what does that mean for, well, everyone trapped in its reality?
Yeah, I'm honestly a little afraid to find out, but gotta admit, my curiosity is hooked. Last time we focused on the players and Ego, but what about the game itself? Like, could the actual rules of soccer, the tactics, the flow of the match be manipulated by something we just can't understand?
It's more than possible. Imagine, like, the entity we talked about, right?
Right.
As a puppeteer, and its strings are attached not just to the players, but to the ball itself.
Oh, wow.
Goals scored not just because of skill, but because some cosmic force wanted it to happen. Victories, defeats, all preordained, part of a grand, terrifying design.
Okay, that's messing with my head. I always thought those crazy goals, those last-minute twists were just, the shonen formula, meant to get us hyped.
Right.
But now, what if the tension we feel, it's not just from the competition itself. What if it's from, like, brushing up against something truly alien?
Exactly. What if the thrill of Blue Lock isn't just from amazing athletic feats, but from unknowingly watching a ritual unfold? Each match, each elimination, another step towards. Well, we can only speculate on the entity's end goal, can't we?
Right, and speculating is, well, that's kind of what we do here. We talked about ego's ambition, maybe mirroring a Lovecraftian scientist,
Hmm.
blindly unleashing forces he can't control.
Right, but what happens when the puppet master realizes he's a puppet too?
Oh, man.
The irony. Ego trying so hard to create a monster striker, he might be the one being molded into something monstrous. Imagine his breakdown, realizing the victories he orchestrated, the ruthless system he built, all maybe guided by something way smarter than him.
It'd completely shatter his ego, wouldn't it? To know he's not the mastermind, he's just another pawn.
Yeah.
But where does that leave the players? Can they even fight back if the rules are rigged?
That's the horrifying part. Some, like Kunigami, maybe they completely give in to the entity. Their bodies and minds warping into something we don't recognize. Others, they might cling to what's left of their humanity, desperately trying to make sense of a world that makes no sense.
Like Asagi. We talked about his metavision. Maybe a gift from the entity?
Yeah.
But what if it's a curse, too? A window that breaks his mind a little more each time he looks through it.
A compelling duality, right? Imagine him seeing the strings, the moves already planned out, but not getting the puppeteer's motives.
Yeah.
His vision becomes like both insight and torment. A constant reminder that his talent, his ambition, maybe it's all just tools for this cosmic horror he can't fight.
This is heavy. It's like that classic cosmic horror thing, you know?
Mhm.
Do you fight back against something so big it's probably futile? Or do you just succumb to knowing your struggle means nothing?
Yeah.
But there's one piece we haven't thought about fully.
I think you're talking about the audience.
Yes.
Us, the ones watching this whole descent into cosmic horror.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're so into Blue Lock, cheering for our favorites,
Mhm.
making theories. But what if we're not just spectators? What if, by reading the manga, by engaging with this story, we're somehow feeding the entity?
A chilling thought. Our fascination, our need to see what happens next, could it be like sustenance for the entity, fueling its growth, its power?
So Blue Lock becomes more than a story then. It's like a portal.
Yes.
And our attention keeps it open. But what if the portal gets wider?
Yeah.
What if its influence starts leaking out of the manga into our world?
That's where fiction and reality get blurry. Imagine these subtle shifts in our own world, impossible sports stuff making the news, a rise in, like, unexplained madness, dreams with the same imagery that haunts Izagi's metavision.
Hold on, I need a second to process all this. We started with, what if Blue Lock could be cosmic horror? Now it's, the story is infecting our reality. That's a level of meta I wasn't prepared for.
That's the nature of it, right?
Yeah.
Cosmic horror, it messes with our sense of order, of safety, reminds us the universe doesn't care about us, that our realities, they're pretty flimsy things.
Okay, deep breaths. Ground ourselves a bit. Even if Blue Lock is this cosmic horror gateway, surely there's some way to fight back. Maybe the players can find a weakness, break free.
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
Can we have free will when there's a force this big, this old? Or are we all, characters and readers, just playing our parts in some cosmic show we don't even understand?
And you really know how to end a segment on a scary note. I'm almost afraid to keep going, but I need to know what happens. Is there any hope?
Yeah.
Any light at the end of this cosmic horror tunnel?
Whether there's hope or just a deeper abyss waiting? Well, that's for the last part of our deep dive. Brace yourself, my friend, because the truth, as they say, it can be more horrifying than fiction.
All right, I'm back. Not sure my sanity made it, though.
Oh.
After that last segment, I mean. We went deep, man. Deep down the rabbit hole with Blue Lock and cosmic horror.
We did.
We looked at how the entity could be messing with the players, the game, even us. But now I gotta ask, is there any way out of this? Any escape from this whole terrifying scenario?
That question, it hangs over us, doesn't it? Can we actually win against something that might be, like, rewriting reality as we speak? It's bleak. Yeah. But even in cosmic horror, sometimes the human spirit, that little spark of defiance,
Right.
it finds a way to persist.
It's okay, I'm holding on to that word, persist. But how? We said Izagi's metavision could be a double-edged sword.
Right.
What if, instead of breaking him, seeing how the entity works, lets him disrupt it, maybe not beat it, but like mess up its plans?
Interesting. Imagine Izagi right on the edge, but he uses his vision not just for the other players' moves, but to see the entity's hand in things. He could be a rogue element.
Yeah.
A player whose actions can't be predicted or controlled.
Like a glitch in the Matrix?
Oh.
I'll take that, even a small bit of hope. What about the others, though? Are they all doomed to be puppets? Or can some of them, I don't know, resist this thing?
Maybe. Remember Kunigami's transformation? We said it could be corruption. But what if it's more than that? What if his body is changing his powers, not because he's being controlled, but because he's like instinctively adapting, evolving to survive in this messed up reality the entity's making?
So not consumed, but integrating with it, becoming something
Yeah.
else. Not human, but not a monster either. That's,
Yeah.
well, not exactly comforting, but it's definitely something.
Intriguing, right. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of hope there. If Kunigami can adapt, maybe others can too. What if the entity's influence isn't one way? What if it's, and I know this sounds crazy, but a symbiotic relationship? A
Yeah.
terrifying, dangerous one? Sure.
This is wild. So we're talking about them not just fighting the entity, but merging with it, becoming something we don't even have words for.
Which leads us back to ego. What happens to the puppet master when he realizes he's a puppet too?
Yeah.
Does he go along with it? Or does he rebel?
If he rebels, it ain't going to be pretty. This is the guy who locked teenagers up, made them fight, life or death, you know? Imagine what he'd do if his own existence was on the line.
Exactly. He could cause so much destruction. But what if, in his last act of defiance, he tries to dismantle everything, free the players, a self-destructive redemption, realizing he was just a pawn in a game way bigger, way scarier than he ever thought?
That'd be a fitting end for him, for sure.
Hmm.
Tragic, but fitting. But what about us then, the audience? We're in this web too, aren't we?
We are.
Should we get out?
That's the toughest question. Can we just close the book, walk away, pretend none of this is real?
Right.
Or is knowing about the entity, being fascinated by Blue Lock, is that a connection we can't break?
So even if the players make it, even if ego blows the whole thing up, we're still tied to it.
Yeah.
Still watching, waiting.
That's the core of real cosmic horror, isn't it? Knowing we're not in control, that forces beyond us are moving, and we can only watch, wait, and hope that what comes out of the darkness isn't too monstrous for us to understand.
This deep dive, it's been a trip into darkness. A world where what's real and what's not gets all mixed up. Where wanting to be the best, having talent, that becomes part of this cosmic horror. And just being the audience ties us to a fate we didn't choose.
And we're at the end now, but I'll leave you with this.
Oh.
What if the real horror of Blue Lock, it isn't the entity itself, it's realizing that we're all trapped. Players, audience, everyone. Trapped inside its story.
Think that's enough cosmic tread for me today?
Eh.
Gonna go read something light, you know? A cookbook, a travel brochure, anything to remind me the world's not as scary as we made it out to be.
A good choice. Sometimes we need to escape, or we'll fall into that abyss. But remember, listener,
Oh no.
the entity is always watching. Even in the normal parts of our world, it's waiting to show itself.
Thanks for the nightmares. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and try not to think about giant eyes in the sky or soccer balls controlled by, cosmic forces.
Good advice. Sweet dreams, everyone. If you can.